morning, everyone. This is Claudia with Work Truck Solutions. We have Will Brogan here today. Will, thank you so much for being with us. Just a
Absolutely.
little heads up, Will and I are actually fighting off a horrible cough, and no, we did not give it to each other. We're on the opposite sides of the country. We have a joke running that for some reason every time we talk on the phone and plan one of these, someone passes off this cough to the other person, and that's how it rolls, isn't it?
Yep.
So thank you all so much for being here. I see a lot of you are still logging on. Will, do you want to share your funny story about your coughing experience? I think you'll all enjoy this since most of you are
Sure, yeah. So, Claudia and I talked on either Wednesday or Thursday of last week. She was sick first, and then Friday I couldn't even get off the couch. I was that bad, but we were taking some friends to the Players Championship, the golf tournament, on Saturday morning. And we go, and everybody wanted to see Jordan Spieth and Tiger Woods. And they were playing about, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes apart, and wanted, of course, to go to the famous Island Green, the 17th hole. So picked out a spot between 16 and 17 so that my daughter can see him pass by, a few feet away, maybe get some high fives. And by the time Tiger came through, I was struggling, just kind of coughing up a lot and everything, and she was too. She was dealing with some heat. And so after he passed us and gave her a smile, which was great, we started walking behind the tee to try to get out of the mass of people that follows him, and ended up getting stuck probably 20, maybe 25 feet from him on the 17th hole. And if you guys know what I'm talking about, it's that Island Green. It's all or nothing. And I could feel this hack just start coming up through my torso. And I'm holding a 2-year-old who could probably explode at any moment too from being hot. And it took everything I had to not just burst out coughing as Tiger Woods is trying to hit his golf shot to this just absolutely dangerous hole. And it felt like my lungs were going to explode, but we made it through, and he didn't hit it in the water there until the next day on Sunday. So it all worked out, but I've never quite felt that type of experience before, where it literally felt like my chest was going to burst. So this should be not too bad, but yeah, we are still both recovering, so we might be hitting our mute buttons a little bit. So if we pause, that's probably why.
Yeah, so we apologize ahead of time, and we thank you for your patience in the meantime. And I see that a lot of you have found the question box. Thank you all so much for being here. It really means a lot to us. I know that you guys are super busy, and so we have a lot of good material to go through. Johnny, I see that you're on here too. Thank you so much for being here. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. I still see people coming in, so I'm just going to go over a couple of housekeeping items and then the agenda, and then we'll just go ahead and dive right into it.
Let's do it.
So as I said, most of you guys found the question box. Feel free to type questions at any time, or if you guys have any comments or feedback, you can either use that or the chat box. I will be monitoring that throughout. We'll also be asking a couple of poll questions that will pop up on your screen, so please feel free to answer those. Anthony, thank you so much. We are so happy you guys are all here and using the question box, so we know if you have questions, you know where to go. So the agenda today, we're going to, overall, we're going to really dive in and tell you guys a story and help you guys connect the dots to help you create some successful strategies. It doesn't really matter where your dealership is at, whether you guys are stocking hundreds of vehicles or maybe you're just a one-man band. We're going to give you guys something that you can all walk away with. We're going to dive into some of those pain points for commercial dealers, how you guys can drive success by understanding prospecting, and provide you guys with some resources and tools. Then we'll have an open question and answer session, but like I said, please feel free to ask questions at any time throughout. We will pause and answer those as we go. Let's see, Taylor, is there any way to get a copy of the PowerPoint? Yes, so today we are recording this session, so I will be sending out this recording in a follow-up email. I can also send out the PowerPoint if you would like to. Just go ahead and send me a direct email. I'll provide you with my email address at the end if you would like the actual PowerPoint itself, but you'll have the recording with the full screen share and everything like that, the audio, all that good stuff, and you guys can watch it at any time. Share it with other folks in your dealership. If for some reason you guys have to jump off because because you have a customer coming in. That's totally fine. We get it. You won't be missing out because we will send you that recording, so don't even worry about that. We also will be sending out all of those resources in our follow-up email. We don't have any in the handouts at this moment just because they would have been kind of a hassle to have to download and manage, and we didn't want you guys to get distracted. Yeah, a lot of good stuff. So let's just go ahead and dive on into it. So I'll go ahead and get started, and then Will and I are kind of going to have an open conversation. There's some parts that he's going to cover and some parts that I'm going to cover, but for the most part, it's just going to kind of flow. So are you ready, Will?
Let's do it.
All right. So the reason that we are using this topic today, growth strategies for commercial dealers, one, it's about to get pretty busy for you guys. The summer seasons are coming up. All of your guys' buyers are going to be getting really busy. They're going to be using those vehicles a lot. And we actually had a dealer reach out to us. He used to be in the industry as a commercial salesperson back in the 90s, and, he switched shifts. He went to a completely different career path, and he actually recently came back in the last couple years, and, he reached out and said, Claudia, there's nothing out there. I had no idea how to get started again. My team didn't really help me get started. The dealership wasn't really allocating a lot to me. I didn't know where I should be training. I didn't know who to reach out to. I didn't really know how to acquire new customers. And, that really touched, me deeply, because that's really what you guys are doing. You guys have to have these strong customer backgrounds. And, with Will being with commercial truck training, their biggest focus is how to make those successful relationships and build on those. So some of the other pain points is, there's no print resources out there for you guys that you guys can easily access. We're steadily building those up for you guys, trying to get that out there for you. Yes, there's different industry publications for you guys to read, but, even those aren't going to be giving you best practices of, what you can be doing to better your strategies, or, little tidbits you can be doing to save time and add efficiencies. There's really no in-dealer training unless they reach out to people like Will Brogan, who can set those trainings up either at the dealership or host, the boot camps that they do. And then, like I said, it's just kind of a lack of priority. At least that's how it's been. We do see commercial growing very steadily, and, the profit margins are so high there that we are seeing retail dealers kind of make that transition to focusing on their commercial operations a little bit more, but still, for those 1 to 10 guys, you guys are still probably at the lower end of the totem pole, which we totally understand, and we don't want you guys to feel that way anymore. We want to help you guys be empowered. So that's a little bit of the background and some of the pain points. I'm going to go ahead and launch a couple poll questions really quick, just so that we can kind of get an understanding of where you guys stand in the dealership. So go ahead and look at that question on your screen. How many of you have a website where the contact information goes directly to you?
So I love that one.
If someone was to reach out for commercial, how many of you are able to have that person contact you directly rather than them go through the retail department and you might lose them? Leave it open for a couple more seconds. Looks like a little over half of you. Wow, this is awesome. I'm seeing a lot of, most of you do have that contact information going to you, but, there's still about 30% of you that either you don't know or know, and I'm guessing that those I don't knows is a major no. So I'll leave it open for a couple more seconds. All right, I'm going to go ahead.
That's a lot higher than I thought it would be, Claudia.
I agree with you.
Although actually, come to think of it, looking at our list, a lot of the people that are here are Work Truck Solutions clients, so that does make some sense. I don't know that that's necessarily reflective of the industry as a whole, but that's still, regardless, that's good to see.
Yep, absolutely. So here's those results right there. Those I don't knows and those nopes, we definitely got to turn that around for you and get you guys to be the main contact there. I do see one question pop up. Give me just 1 second. Oh, perfect, Taylor. Thank you so much for providing that for us. And it looks like George, for us it depends on the source. Leads from Work Truck Solutions come direct. Leads through other sources route through the BDC first. Well, the BDC is always a good channel as well, because I feel like they generally understand that, if it's a commercial customer, they're going to send them to the right folks. It's those people that are calling the retail store directly, and then, the people, the receptionist is sending them to whoever's up next on the list. That's where
Right.
you have those struggles. And we have one more question just to get a little more feel for how your dealership is treating you. How many of you have a photo of you on your website? I mean, I think that, Will agree with me when I say that adding that personal touch is major, and it makes a huge difference, especially in this business where you're relying on those strong relationships.
That one's a little bit lower.
Yeah, it is.
As I would also expect. Claudia, if I can, I'm going to jump in on these. We formulated these last week because you and I both see this a lot, pretty much what we do every day, of dealerships that don't have either one of these. A direct contact to whoever the commercial and fleet sales representatives or managers are, and basically, for lack of a better term, an acknowledgement of your existence.
Yeah.
As a person within the dealership. Some of you may be amazed, some of you may not, of how many people or how many dealerships we see where maybe that phone number isn't even listed. And the person that is the commercial and fleet rep is desperately trying to make a difference, but when somebody goes back to that website, they can't find the person that they want to talk to. And every business owner wants to have their guy or their person that they can go to for their vehicle needs. And if the dealership's not allowing you to be that face of commercial and fleet, or faces if there are multiple people there, then they're missing an opportunity, and it's not that hard to rectify.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so let's dive into the next part. So now we're going to talk a little bit about driving success. So how do you guys do that? We kind of touched on that pain point of you guys being the black sheep of the dealership. You might not even be known that you guys have commercial. A lot of people's websites, they don't show that you have commercial. You might show that you have some cargo vans. You might show that you have some chassis. But a lot of the time, you can't even tell if you have any upfit vehicles. Even if you go onto your lot, are they going to see those? Chances are they're not going to be up front on that front line. So building your brand is going to be huge. Differentiating yourself a little bit from that retail side of things and knowing what your goals are, what your values are as a company is going to be huge, because, you really are a completely different portion of the business. You're focused on B2B, whereas retail, they're focused on the consumer. Those buyers are based off of what they want. They have a more lengthy process of, when they're ready to buy. The folks who are purchasing from you, they're ready to buy now, and they're not buying because they want to. They're buying because they need to. Their business relies on it. Let's see, we have one comment here. Matthew Murray, being a 23 dealership company, the process to getting anything done is a huge problem. Matthew, we totally feel you there. We've heard that from so many people. A lot of the folks on here, like Will said, are using our Work Truck Solutions platform, which thank you all so much for being a part of our partnership. But, getting things done, getting those photos up, getting pricing to be correct. I know that pricing is probably your guys' biggest demon that you face, and it's not your fault. There's nothing you can really do about it, and it's tough. So keeping that brand awareness, letting people know that you are in the business of helping their business thrive and grow is going to be huge. And Will's going to touch a little bit more on how you guys can actively be marketing to gain prospects and to follow up with those prospects and be setting appointments. So I'm just going to leave that there. Basically, the importance of brand recognition is so that people know that you guys are in the business to help their business grow. But I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next part. And we talk a little bit about social media. So actively marketing. You can do that through email. You could do that through direct mail. Direct mail is kind of dying out a little bit, but Will's going to touch on ways that you could use direct mail to your advantage, making that a little bit personal. But Will and I definitely have some experience on the social media side of things. So, Will, do you want to talk about a couple of those success stories that you know of?
I can. I want to actually back up just a bit, if we can,
Sure.
to the point that you made about because we touched on it with the pictures and all that, but being the black sheep of the dealership, if you will. And the question that I ask myself, of course, most people on this call know my boss, Ken Taylor, and he does almost everything with questions. The question that I come back to is, what does the customer-facing side of your commercial and fleet, anything, particularly website, but social media, other marketing, what does that customer-facing side look like? Does it make sense to the customer? Workshop Solutions obviously solved a lot of that problem as far as inventory goes, but are you giving the customer the opportunity and prospect the opportunity to find everything that they need to then be able to follow up with you? Let them educate themselves on commercial and fleet too. And then another point to the black sheep, this is kind of a sad but funny story at the same time. Unfortunately, we've had two instances where this is the case in the last 5 years, where Ken has gotten a call from a dealership. I think in both cases they were the general manager, and they somehow got our name from a 20 group, or maybe an OEM representative or something like that. And they would call Ken and say, we had a fleet and commercial guy. He was a great producer, X numbers, and he died. And we don't know what he did, and we don't know what to do.
Yep.
Even for the living, obviously, that is something that we see a lot, that people just don't understand this side of the business. So it speaks to the opportunity, one, to be able to grow the department so you have multiple people in case something like that happens. But two, you have to, one of the dealers we visited with earlier this year out in the Tampa area said, commercial and fleet is a show me business. We need to, a general manager will come to a commercial sales manager and says, show me how this works. So we understand the struggles, Matthew. We understand that in a dealership network that's excuse me, that is that large, that you're going to have red tape issues. These are some of the solutions we're about to talk about that hopefully will help that a little bit. So I just wanted to hit those two particular things.
Absolutely, yeah. So a little bit about digital marketing. There's a lot of opportunity there for you guys, and for a lot of people, it's kind of scary because you haven't had that expertise. You haven't been as introduced to it as you would think that you would, but it's not as scary as most people think, and there are so many ways. And a lot of people also think that it's extremely expensive.
No.
It's not at all. I actually work with a dealership out in Florida. They run monthly ads to target specific vocations to feature their trucks. It's not a lead generating service. They're not expecting to get leads out of it. They just want to build that brand recognition. They want to let their market be known that they're in the business. So they actually only spend, they set their cap at $1,000. If they hit that, then that's great. They usually attract around 2,000 viewers of their clicks to their ads, which is amazing for the $1,000 ad spend, and for them being a smaller dealership. Their sales are increasing. It's not necessarily tied to those ads, but the person who I work with there, they're very confident that it has something to do with the recognition. So there's so many different things that you can do for such a low cost, and not a ton of effort to go into it. It's, you guys are already experts. We don't have to tell you how to sell, and that's not what we're here to do. We're just here to let you know that there are solutions, and to take that leap a little bit, and take advantage of some of these resources that we're going to be talking to you about and sharing with you in order to start building up these strategies. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next thing. Like I said, Will's going to touch a little bit more on how you can actively market and network to set appointments and get actual interested leads. So we have one more poll question. I know we're asking a lot from you today, but I swear this is the last one. So what are you doing to prospect now? And you may select any of the following. I'm sure there's a lot of things that you guys are doing. We figured that these four were probably the top four that most of you were familiar with, so feel free to go ahead and answer those. Oh, awesome. It looks like most of you are doing all of these things, which makes us very proud. Ken would just be giddy right now if he saw these answers.
Yes, but there's a little thing that I'm going to add to this.
Okay.
Obviously, it can't be a poll question. And that is, of those phone calls and the visiting businesses in particular, how many of them are appointment calls? Maybe just write a percentage in the questions thing so we can get a feel for that, because that's one of the things that I'm about to go into. That's a huge, huge missed opportunity for so many people.
Yeah. You want to ask that question just one more time, just so that they can make sure they can get us an answer out there?
Absolutely. So Claudia posed the poll question of what are you doing to prospect now? Emails, phone calls, visiting businesses, and attending local events and association meetings, all of which were great. But my question is, how many of you are, in regard to the phone calls and the visiting businesses, how many of those, if you give us, say, a percentage, are appointment calls, whether they're in person or over the phone?
Mm. Oh, here we go. All right. So it looks like Taylor is saying about 50%. Mike is saying about 30%. Pete, 0 at this point, just starting out. That's all right, Pete. We're going to help you get started with a boom. So, Jose, none. That's all right. We're going to help you guys, set those appointments and get these prospects to be a lot more successful. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next thing. Thank you all so much for answering that added question in there. So, well, I'm going to let you go ahead and take this one.
Okay, so as far as the understanding how to prospect, I obviously mentioned that and adding on to that poll question, but Claudia and I have a note of getting appointments with customers, and I think we should actually change that as far as a mindset goes to, instead of getting appointments with the customers, setting appointments with customers. And here's why I say that. We've been in just several dealerships so far this year. I obviously don't go on every single one with Ken, but we've been in quite a few that I've noticed a pattern over the years in which when we go into dealerships, Ken will call 2 weeks out and say, "Hey, start making your appointments now. We're going to have, Thursday available. Let's go see XYZ customers. Make sure you call, you do get their appointments." It could be really anything. It could be a customer where you're getting vendor referrals, for instance. It could be somebody that is new that you met at a trade association that you're going to visit their business and learn about their operation. It doesn't matter. But the point is, when we make an appointment, that's an opportunity for the business owner to say, "Hey, I'm blocking out 10, 15 minutes with this particular person, this sales consultant from the dealership." But it's also an opportunity for you to say, "Hey, I need to do this and block out all the other stuff that is going to take up my day within the dealership." Obviously, that's difficult sometimes. Obviously, you have to go through gatekeepers, and we have scripts and things like that, work tracks for that. But you have to get into the mentality of setting the appointments, because that will allow you to actually focus on what to do once you get there. We've been to so many dealerships which Ken will make that call, "Hey, set the appointments," and they don't. They will have an idea of who they want to visit, but the dealers won't take that step to say, "Hey, I want to come see you Thursday at 12 o'clock or, Wednesday at 8. Doesn't matter, obviously, what time, but actually getting in to make that call, going and doing it and having a purpose, get in, get out, get on with life. You have to do that, as opposed to, "Hey, I just know, Joe's Plumbing down the street. Let's go visit them around lunchtime and see if they're in." And if they are, then you're kind of improvising the call. That doesn't help anybody. And in a way, it's almost a cold call on somebody that you already know, which can be construed as disrespectful. So you don't want to get in that habit. Get in the habit of setting the appointments. And then another thing that Claudia and I talked about is something new that makes you guys listening to this feel like here's a new take, but we're going to turn that on its head. Here is an old practice that has become a new take again, or a forgotten aspect, and that is when you visit with somebody, or you sell them a vehicle, or maybe you met them at a trade association or another type of event, write a handwritten thank you note to that person if there was something meaningful, something purposeful over the course of that meeting. And then in addition to that, it would be a great idea to write it and send it that day so that it's top of mind. We visited again. I had already mentioned the one dealership in St. Petersburg. Um, Ken and I drove down that morning, left at, I don't know, 4 a.m., whatever it was, and the entire way back, Ken wrote thank you notes in the car. I drove just so we're safe there.
I was
Um,
going to say, that'd be talent.
yeah, it would be. But he wrote thank you notes, stamped them, and we actually got to another dealership not too far away. Some of those guys were on the call, and we stopped at a gas station to refuel. There was a post office box there, and he threw the envelopes in right away. So it's so much of it is a mindset and then executing that, and these couple of things are going to help with that.
Absolutely.
Um, Now, as far as the actual prospecting goes, what I'm about to say is more tailored to people that are new, but at the same time, I'm looking through some of the people that are on this call, and even though you've got a lot of experience, there are always recycled people coming into these different lists that it never hurts to go back and touch on these. And here they are, vendors of the dealership, people who actually come in and perform a service on the building of the actual dealership. They have businesses too. Now, the people that come in are obviously the workers and not necessarily the business owners, but there's still an opportunity there to connect. So take advantage of that one. And that one in particular, go to accounts payable and ask them when they actually pay those bills, and ask if you could take the checks to those businesses. You get a free appointment call and you get to hand them money for that. That will be memorable, believe me.
Oh, yeah. I'll take
Um, what's that?
it. I said, I'll take it.
Right, exactly. So obviously it's money that's owed to them, but still you're the one handing them that money, and they're going to remember that after a while, and maybe even come to enjoy that meeting if you could do it regularly. Next one is orphan clients. Anybody that maybe left your dealership and you filled their position, they're going to be an opportunity to pick up those clients and maybe some of those relationships that hadn't turned into sales yet. So keep that in mind. One of the big ones that we see is the service but not sold list, and that is businesses that are bringing their vehicles to your dealership to be serviced, but they were sold somewhere else. There could be hundreds of reasons for that, but we've been into two dealerships within the last 6 weeks. One that said that 90% of the vehicles that are coming in for commercial service to that dealership were bought someplace else. 90%. That's a gold mine just waiting to be discovered. And another one was 50%. That particular dealership is a very well-established brand that is servicing everything. So even there, one of the most successful dealerships, at least in this state, is still having an opportunity to grow from an in-dealership lead. I think that's pretty awesome. Same kind of goes for the parts and the body shops, obviously, if they apply to your dealership. And then the best one, current and recent customers. Anybody that you've sold to, asking them for referrals, and we have a specific word track for that that's absolute gold, but we're not going to get into that today. We've got other things to touch on, right, Claudia?
Oh, yeah.
And then one of the other things that you can do that's kind of along these lines, but still different, is becoming active, that's a key word, and valued in associations and other groups. Get involved with committees, be involved, make calls, meet people. There are a lot of dealerships that are members of various associations that it stops there. They're just members. They're a name on the list. Get in, be active, meet people, help out, and you will reap the rewards from that. With that, we could save that for another webinar, but those are overviews. And then even one more thing, that is business owners, regardless of what business it is, that are buying from the retail side of the store. You should be able to access that information, and you don't necessarily want to take a retail sale away from a retail salesperson, but if there's commercial spinoff potentially for that business owner, that's something that you can take. So lots of different opportunities there that outside of the trade associations and dropping off checks to vendors, you don't even have to leave the dealership for.
Right. Absolutely. And, something that we have yet to touch on were, and I don't know if you're getting to this yet, or kind of some of the expectations. This is a very unique industry, and even the fact that, it's business to business, it's even a little bit more different because everything that you guys do is so specialized. There's not one truck fits all for a customer.
Hmm.
You might sell to 20 different plumbers, but I guarantee you every single plumber is going to have a different requirement. Some might be way more organized than the others. And that's an opportunity for you to also kind of work with those plumbers that maybe aren't as experienced or organized, and you can provide them with an educational opportunity to say, hey, I see that, you got stuff falling out of the back of your van right now. What do you think about this, van upfit package? This is something great that you could be adding in there. Why don't you bring that in, and we will get this all set up for you. Here's a rental in the meantime, so you don't have to miss out on an opportunity. And those are some opportunities that you guys could be taking as well. You guys are thought leaders of the commercial department. So these vocational guys, they might not always know where they're missing out on efficiencies, and that's where you guys can come in. And any seasoned salesperson knows that you can't expect to close a sale right away, especially with business-to-business sales. It's
Hmm.
a lot longer of a process. So, of course, there's going to be those one-offs where it does happen right away. But you got to build those relationships, and I guarantee you that the more that you work on them, the longer they're going to last. And I'm sure that some of the more seasoned, experienced folks on this call could definitely tell you that they have relationships with people where they're probably now friends outside of work as well. Did you
I'm
want to
glad.
touch on anything there?
Yeah, I'm two things there, but the one most recent about becoming friends. The last dealership I was in with Ken was McGrath Fleet and Commercial, which any of you guys know us. We refer back to them a lot out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, because they do so many things right, and their sales have just exploded since 2015, in large part because of these things. But one of the salesmen there is Jeff Melcher, who used to be in boat sales, and we were just about to actually wrap up the entire visit, and Ken came in and put two business cards on Jeff Melcher's desk and said, "Hey, we were run across some businesses, and we ran across some guys that are in the need for Chevy. They have all the American OEMs, but Jeff is one of the Chevy salesmen." And Jeff looked at it and said, "Can you give me any information?" And they did. They talked briefly about it. And Jeff sat down and said, "Ken, I love it when you're here. I always get an opportunity to make a new friend." And he's holding the card as he said it. And so, again, that goes back to a mindset. In this case, Jeff's mindset is this isn't a sale. This is the start of a friendship where I just happen to supply vehicles to a guy that I'm becoming friends with. That's a really, really cool aspect of this if you can take that approach, and I think really any of us can. And then, yeah, just again, the commercial and fleet, everybody that's spent any time in here knows that this is a process versus an event. And I'm sure many people have heard us use these stats before, but I'll go again. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe these are from the Huffway Corporation. And this is basically after the first sales call, 1% of sales are made. After the second, 3%. After the third, 6%. After the fourth, 9%. So you're still not even up to what, you're right at 20-ish. And then number 5, after the fifth call, 81%.
Yep.
So that is just a numerical illustration of the difference between retail and commercial and fleet, and how long, as far as these expectations go, how long some of these processes can take. And don't give up after one call unless it's like, really, really, really bad. So, even we had a dealership that a lady, the first week on the job, jumped on a delivery and went to, I think it was a plumber, and saw that they had the next door business had a very similar vehicle from a different brand, and went in and asked if anybody had worked with their particular dealership before. Person said no. She stayed in contact. 18 months after that, they bought 6 vehicles from her. Now, had she just gone in and said, "Hey, do you buy Chevrolet?" and they said no, and left because of the brand loyalty, maybe she never comes across that. Now she's got a 6-month or a 6-truck deal and a great relationship she's built with these people. So take the effort to do all these sorts of things and be continuous and follow up, and you will reap the rewards.
Absolutely. So now let's just dive into, some opportunities for you guys to take advantage of. So, there's lots of resources and tools available to you guys out there, but they're not always, talked about in your dealership. And because you might not have the biggest dealership or the most organized commercial department, like we've mentioned multiple times here, you guys are generally the black sheep unless you're moving hundreds or thousands of units every single year, So it's tough for you guys to figure out where those things are. So make sure you guys are attending local events. Those associations are huge because you're going to be learning more about your target audience. And you cannot, there's never too much to be learned about, where the pain points are, where trends are heading. Get ahead of those trends. Know where the industries are moving that are in your target market. If you're in an area where construction is about to be booming, you best believe you better be stocking some dump bodies or have access to those and some service bodies, even contractor bodies, things like that. So, stay ahead. Attend webinars like this. NTEA, the leader of our industry, they have tons of webinars as well. A lot of them are focused towards the body manufacturer and distributor side of things, but there's always something that you could learn from there. Read up on your articles. I mentioned that there are a lot of publications out there that you guys can be following. I personally follow a ton just so that I can stay up on trends, know what products are coming out with the different OEMs, so that I can help with my customers be able to market their vehicles, give them some insights. And then, like Ken and I have said, we actually are going to be providing, Ken, sorry, oh my gosh, Will. Oh, my brain is going away.
It could have been Ken.
We both have some white papers that we're going to share with you that actually Ken and my CEO, Catherine Schifferly, each of them have taken a chance to write some white papers out. Will has some word tracks available. If you want to reach out directly to him, I'll give you guys his information. And again, we're going to give you guys a lot of different resources. I think we have like 5 or 6, maybe even more than that, that we're going to be including in these follow-up emails for you guys to check out. Check out some videos. There's tons of things like that. And then there's also templates that you guys can be able to use to make your prospecting more efficient and, dialed down. If you guys are on with Work Truck Solutions and you guys aren't taking advantage of that 2-minute prospecting tool, I highly suggest making it a part of your daily routine. You can reach out to 10 extremely targeted buyers that you guys have from your CRM. You can upload those directly, send them vehicles that are important to them with a very direct message that will actually bring value to them, and it could just be a step in your prospecting. There's also some paid services. Will, do you want to talk about the newsletters and kind of the importance of why these dealers should be having these email newsletters?
Yeah, the newsletter is something that we actually made a really positive change to just in the last, in May, quite frankly. But basically the way that we do it, if I could just give a little, not a pitch here, but an explanation at least, is we do it on a monthly basis. We have a motivational article, then on top of that, a business article if you want it. Sometimes they get a little long. But then the 2 main points that I think are really awesome are the customer of the month, which basically just, let's say it's Claudia, let's say you are a dealer. You give me one of your customers and I put together basically a paragraph and contact information of promotional stuff for them as if you wrote it, and then a vehicle of the month as well. And that one came from OEM requirements for co-op dollars, which I think is fantastic and a great move, where we highlight a vehicle, an actual vehicle that you have on your lot. And we've had great success out of that. We've had a couple scenarios where we've actually used the forgotten about big red 3500 dump truck that sits in the back collecting fall leaves and getting those sold through the newsletter. Other vans with weird upfits and stuff like that, as well as people selling typical vehicles to to industries that typically drive those specific vehicles. So, and visually, I think it's pretty impressive, Claudia. You've seen it. It's
they're really nice.
Really clean.
Yeah, sorry, keep going.
Well, I was just going to say the best part about it is we do all the ghostwriting work. They don't know that we exist, Ken and I. everything looks like it comes from you. You just supply us with that information. We supply the articles. We put it all in. And the best part is we've standardized the pricing. It only costs $100 per person per month, and it should be 50% co-opable. Now, every OEM is a little bit different on how you have to apply for that, but as far as we go, as far as we know, that's what we've seen. So those are territory protected, though, and I posted on our Facebook this morning that several large cities were actually claimed earlier this past week. So consider that. Jump on it. It's on our website. If you go to commercialtrucktraining.com/newsletters, you can read more about it.
Yeah. And the value that those bring is that brand recognition. It's
exactly.
You're not pushing the sales to your customers. You are letting them know that you're educated, that you want to educate them, that you want to help them grow their business. And that's what's so big about it. Marketing doesn't have to always be a pushy sales tactic. And I think that that's where a lot of dealerships get lost is, you got to kind of take the three-step approach where you give, and then you have a brief ask. That's going to really help you build up that brand recognition. That's really going to help people want to listen to you when you make that sales call or when you follow up with that lead. And kind of to follow up with Will, if you're more interested in advertising some of your vehicles, we actually have a brand new service at Work Truck Solutions called Business Builder, where we completely build and manage ads for you on Facebook and Instagram. They kind of are interchangeable. They go one in hand with each other. It's very inexpensive. A lot of companies will charge up the wazoo. We were actually talking to a third party who was going to try to help us build and scale this when the idea first came up, and they wanted to charge $3,000 just for a setup fee, and that's not even asking for the ad spend. We actually only charge $450 a month total for that, and then whatever the ad spend that you want to spend. So the person I was talking about earlier, they spend a total of $1,450 a month, so the $450 for the service itself, and then the $1,000 cap that they put on that. And you guys can set whatever you want, and you get a full analytics. You get, insight as to what your buyers are looking for, and hopefully help you move more vehicles. And so, with Will's service of the newsletter and our service of the actual advertising, you're going to be winning majorly. So if you guys want any more information, go ahead and reach out to us. All of our contact information is going to be in that follow-up email, which I will send later on today. And I'll also provide some links and some information on both of these services so that you guys can learn a little bit more about them.
And Claudia, one more thing to add to the newsletter aspect of it and social media in general. I like to use the term passive marketing when we're presenting these at our ultimate boot camps, because essentially I look at it as it's not something that you are sending to one particular individual. It's a message that you're putting out there, regardless of what it is, whether it's a newsletter or a social media post, that you do want people to see. But if you are using all of these avenues, email, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, those three in particular, and then I think a little bit into Twitter too and Instagram and stuff, you are giving that customer prospect the opportunity to view your message in the way they want to see it. I'm sure anybody on here that's on a social media platform probably has their one favorite that they use the most. And what we're trying to do by knowing all of these different things is to get each of those people, that person that likes Facebook the most, the person that likes YouTube the most, the person that likes LinkedIn the most, to see the same message the way their eyeballs are used to seeing some of these things. Yeah. And the best part is it's simply to enhance the relationship. It's usually not a direct sales message. And they could still see, hey, you're taking this seriously, it's important to you, and hopefully they take that and say, I want to work with this person because they do take this seriously, and they are trying to at least make an effort to reach out to people across the community and the industries to build those relationships.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we went over a lot of information today, and you guys have been probably one of the best crowds we've ever had. Super interactive, and we greatly appreciate that. Any questions, please feel free to type them in the question box.
We do have one already.
Oh, we do?
Mm-hmm. Joanne Mangieri, I hope I got that last name right. Looking for help in figuring out, this is a really small box, sorry. Figuring out what kind of leave behind I can leave along with my business card when calling in person. Any ideas? Yes. You can go a couple different routes depending on how much you want to spend on printing, / how talented you are with graphics. And if you don't have a background on either of those, let me know. But I'll give email address at the end, but it's willbrogan@gmail.com is just the easiest one for me. The options there would be depending on kind of where you are in the process. If it's somebody that you're close to perhaps making a sale with, I would recommend a leave behind, probably printing a Work Truck Solutions page of that actual vehicle that they're interested in or one similar to it, and let them kind of scan through the different specs, probably especially in regard to whatever upfit it's going to have them see if it's going to be right for them or if it fits along with what their fleet already is.
Yep.
The second option, if you're maybe just on a first call with that person and you don't want to overwhelm them, is to leave a 6-panel brochure where you can kind of give all the information in an overview sense, and nothing's really too detailed, but it can show the scope of what commercial and fleet can do for a business. And then the third, maybe you're going to a business for the first time off of, say, a trade association or another type of group meeting, and you do know the person, but you're maybe meeting them for the second time. It's not a cold call, and you're comfortable with leaving a little bit more. Then maybe you're having a folder of more of that same information, but in greater detail. And Claudia, I know you guys do a great job with that with Work Truck Solutions, but then otherwise, and we've also done plenty of all three of those as well, being able to print and execute all of those things and put them all together to help you with that. So, but I would start there with one of those three based on where that relationship is.
Yep, that's a super low cost way to be able to do that. And, if you work closely with your, general manager and see if you can get some sort of almost a prospecting budget, I would even recommend just a simple $5 coffee card just as a thanks for, stopping by, invite them to come get coffee with you. That's always something great because they want to get away from the office too. So invite them to lunch, invite them to coffee, spend some more personal time with them. It's going to help you in the long run. And if you're on with Work Truck Solutions, we actually have optimized the printing of the specific vehicle detail pages. So when you print those out, it lays out beautifully. If you have some nice stock paper or a little bit of a glossy light paper, it looks absolutely fantastic. You can leave a personalized note on there like Will was saying, with your business card, and just say, hey, thought you'd be interested in this, please let me know. Follow up with a phone call later on, and I think you'll be set. All right, it looks like we have another question from Steve. Does your company have a newsletter? Steve, we both have newsletters. Commercial Truck Training has Truck Stop, and we have our monthly video newsletter that goes out every single month, and I will make sure that you are subscribed to both of our lists so you start receiving those every single month.
Same here, and that goes for everybody that's on this list, although I know a lot of them are on here already. And Joanne, I see your follow-up question too. Anything that you could think of that might be a personal touch. The question is as far as leave behinds, candy bars, post-it notes, anything in addition to the papers that you'd be giving. We like a couple different options there. One, we typically save this for someone that's actually bought a vehicle, but work gloves are great with a post-it, as you said, or a note at least of if you have to change a tire, wouldn't want you to get your hands dirty. Those little work gloves, especially if you could put the dealership branding on there somehow. Yeah. Great little wow factor type thing.
Companies out there that do it at a super low cost, especially if you buy in bulk. Again, try to work with your general manager. Explain to them how important it is to give these little items back. And if your brand is on there, I mean, how many times have you guys gone to a trade show or even a county fair where you go and you get little things and, you're like, oh, I wonder which company I got this from. You don't even have to wonder because it's right there. They can't forget about you. So, all of those things are great.
There's a good chance if you're doing events right that you're going to have those handouts and you're going to have excess, whether that would be koozies or pens or hats or notepads, anything like that. Find out the ones that are successful and fly off the shelves, if you will, and use those.
Yep, I highly suggest just Googling best things to give away. Michelle, I see your question. Sorry, did you need to?
So I was just going to say, I agree with the candy bars and everything, and that would be great, but you never know when you're going to find somebody that's allergic to peanuts or something, and it's just going to backfire on you. So I would try to stick a little bit more toward the business things.
Yeah. Michelle, I see your question about what is the program that creates posts for social media. That is called Business Builder. It's actually run by Work Truck Solutions. I actually manage that program. So I'll reach out to you directly with some more information on that, and we can have a chat offline about that. Let's see. We have a question here from Joel. As someone brand new to fleet, what would you say is the most important thing to set myself apart from the other sales professionals here as well as others in the market? That's a really good question, Joel. I'm going to say my part, and Will, I think you'll probably have a lot to say here too. I would definitely say to educate yourself a lot. Think outside of the box. Again, you're in the business of building relationships. Build those relationships with your customers, but build those relationships with your partners too. Work with your body manufacturers, work with your distributors, work with other companies' fleet managers, and figure out what their pain points are and see how you can implement solutions for them. It could be something as small as, man, we have a problem with theft in our area. What can we do to keep people from getting into these? So then you go to your body manufacturer and say, hey, I have this customer with this issue. What can you provide me for, a low cost to help them solve this? It could be something as simple as that. Will, do you have anything to add on to that?
I do. A couple of things. We touched on them earlier, but I think they really apply here. First of all, be active in everything that you can, and be valued while you're active. The other thing that I would say is to be observant. Whether you're going into a business owner's office or maybe going into an event, or you're seeing some people wherever you eat lunch. In the South, it's a barbecue place. North, it's a diner. Anybody with a logo shirt, don't be afraid to stop and ask questions. And the more questions that you do ask, especially if they're good ones, you can learn more about that person. And even if you're not learning about their vehicle needs or their company needs, maybe you're learning more about the person themselves, and that can kind of tie you back to that mindset that I mentioned earlier with Jeff Melcher of really kind of trying to make the person your friend.
Yeah.
I think if you take those concepts and apply a personal touch to them, even if it doesn't, quote, set you apart, it will raise your profile, if you will, as an individual and your name and who you are in particular, if that makes sense.
And another thing, I know that, on the retail side, dealerships are in such strong competition with each other. And, that doesn't necessarily stop on the commercial side. You guys are all trying to meet your quotas and make your business thrive. But, you guys can help each other as well. Back to talking about McGrath, we actually had Andy and Tyler on with us, what was that, in November of last year? And, Andy was more than willing to be able to answer questions from folks. He came from the retail department, had no idea what he was going to be doing in commercial. Was thankful to be having the help of Ken and Will, but take advantage of each other, ask each other questions. You see someone doing really well, say, hey, where did you start? Were you at the bottom and did you rise, or did you get to come into this dealership when it was already so successful? And if so, what was that experience like? You don't have to give away trade secrets. You don't have to do any of that stuff. But, it's a community, and the more that this community comes together, the stronger it's going to be overall. There's going to be dealerships that have vehicles that you don't have. There's going to be an opportunity for you guys to trade vehicles. Keep those relationships strong. You don't want to miss that opportunity. All right. It looks like we have another question. Do you have a list of all of the different associations by state? That would be a crazy big list, Matthew, but, it's
Hmm.
actually really easy. I was helping out a dealer. I don't know if any of you guys were on last month for when we were talking about how to throw a successful event for your commercial department, but I was actually helping one of our dealers reach out and market her event, and, I just did a really quick search for, she's up in the Chicago area, so I just did a quick search of vocational associations, and I kind of pointed out specific vocations. So I looked for electricians, I looked for contractors, I looked for construction. There's ASC, there's AGC, there's tons of different things. If you spend maybe 20 minutes Googling it, I guarantee you're going to come up with a really good list. I think Will agree with me when I say select 5, do some investigating out of those, and pick one of them to join. Eventually when you get your feel for those, maybe you'll start to expand or have other folks in your dealership join other ones so that you guys can really spread across and, have your brand really well known. That's another part of that brand recognition that is so important.
Hey, Claudia, I'm showing 155 or I'm sorry, 155 Eastern. And I know people want to get out of here, so I would like to make a suggestion.
Sure.
We still have a couple of questions spilling over, maybe between 3 and 5, and they're really, really good ones, but they're a little more detailed than we have the opportunity as far as time goes to answer.
Sure.
So I would like to reach out and say, for those of you who have asked and we haven't answered yet, we're going to apply those to a segment that we run occasionally on the Truck Stop with Ken called Questions from the Field. And we will
Perfect.
put every single one of those in a newsletter coming up. We might tailor it a little bit to make it a little bit easier to answer, but I want to make sure all of them are answered, but we don't have, now 4 minutes to
Yeah.
be able to do that. And we've got a couple other things we got to announce. So just want to mention a stay tuned, and we will get to you. It just won't be
Yes,
in the next few minutes.
absolutely. So we'll go ahead and stop there. You guys, such great questions. I
Yes,
am
thank
blown
you.
away by the interaction today and the engagement. You guys
Me
are
too.
fantastic. So let's move on real quick. Will, thank you so much for doing that. I'll also address some of the rest of those questions in the follow-up email just so you guys can all see those and just get a double whammy, because I'm sure that Will's going to expand on them a lot further in his truck stop email. But let's
Right.
go ahead and move on and wrap up so you guys can get back to doing what you do best, which is sell some trucks. So Will, why don't you take this one away?
This is an infographic for our actually second boot camp from now, but this is the one that we're really, really focused on, and that is our second trip to the West Coast. We did one in August last year with Work Truck Solutions. It was fantastic. It was our second largest attended one that we've ever had, and we are looking to actually tie a record for attendance and meet our 150th attendee. We started this format in 2013 and are very close to having our 150th person come. The Ultimate Boot Camp will cover everything that we talked about today and in much greater detail, and about 4 or 5 times more than that.
Yep.
It's
More.
2.5 days. It is a total package of sales training for commercial and fleet. And listen, if nothing else, the experience of getting to work with Ken and the artistry that he applies to all of these things is worth the price of admission alone. So please
I can
consider
use
that. The other one, for those of you that maybe aren't out west, is June 20th to 22nd, Wednesday to Friday, here in Jacksonville, Florida. Both of them are available on our website. If you just go to commercialtrucktraining.com, click on events, we've got Ultimate Boot Camp California, Ultimate Boot Camp Florida. Find the one that fits best for you. Obviously, Work Truck Solutions one, we want everybody to come to the one in California. But and if you have any questions further I can answer as far as agenda topics and all that, let me know. But this is really our crown jewel, and we're always excited about this.
Absolutely. And if you go to the West Coast one, you'll actually get to see mine and Will's shiny, bright faces in person. So we'd love to meet you there. But we understand if you're not on the West Coast or, near there, or if there's time constraints, definitely check out the one over in Florida coming up next month. I will include links to everything in the follow-up emails. And since you guys will all be part of the truck stop coming up, you guys will probably find out more information on that as well. You guys, thank you so much. I really
Yes,
can't
thank you.
say enough how much we appreciate you. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. We'll send you the recording either later today or first thing tomorrow, so keep your eyes out for that. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We appreciate you, and now go sell some trucks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. Bye.